Welcome to the world of Rex. It is Marvel Rex here. I am so excited to be with you wherever you are, whenever you are listening to this podcast. We're going to be diving into the week of March 11th to March 17th of 2024. Now, I want to kind of frame this week. Before we dive in to this week, which is an important week as we gear up for eclipses, before we dive in, you can always connect with me one on one for a reading. I do all kinds of readings, and you can find that. The link is in my show notes. I love to work with folks one on one. So that's really juicy. We can do that together. You can also subscribe to the newsletter as well as check me out on all the social medias, and that is linked below as well. If you love me so much and you want to send me a cup of coffee, you can always Venmo me at MARVAL-REX. And I appreciate every single cup of coffee that comes my way. Truly do. Okay, let's dive into this week. What is happening the week before the equinox and an eclipse? Like, this is the week before. So there is a ramp up period from this Pisces new moon that we just had last weekend. So we're ramping up. The moon is getting bigger. Therefore, our emotions will be getting bigger as we reach that full moon lunar eclipse, a fated culmination, a fated resolution that's happening right around March 24th, 25th. Okay. So in our minds, things are already brewing, and not just in our minds, externally as well. Things will be brewing internally and externally where we're like, oh, okay, this is what's coming up to be transformed and composted. You know, with the axis of Pisces and Libra, there is a desire for peace and for flow. And yet, we're going to enter Aries season on next week on March 20th. And that peace and flow that both Libra and Pisces desire is going to get shook up by Aries. Aries is going to come in and be like, time to go to battle. So, what I want to say about this week is that this week is a more peaceful, peace oriented week leading up to very intense, fated, FATED changes that are happening for each of us, particularly in the realm of relationships as we enter Aries and Aries season. Therefore, we have a full moon in Libra during Aries season. That's how that works. So we want to just really be paying attention. This is a great week, and I've been telling all my clients this. This is a great week to be a detective in your own life. Take notes. What is changing? Because things are definitely changing from that full moon in or that new moon in Pisces, rather, which had a Uranian signature, which is a chaotic, change-oriented signature, right around the weekend, last weekend. What is transforming, what is changing, and then the other thing to do, even though there will be changes happening with that new moon in Pisces that wants to be in the flow, but things are changing because of Aquarius. The other thing to do is really rest as much as you can. This is the final week of pure Pisces energy. We get a little bit, we get Mercury and Aries, that happens. But overall, we have a lot of Pisces energy that the sun is still in Pisces all week. So we want to be doing the Pisces things. What are those things? Retreating, pulling a hermit in the tarot card, right? Like going away, hermitude, going on a retreat of any kind, whether it is literally like a home day where you're like, I'm not talking to anybody today, or literally going on a silent retreat or a meditative retreat. Even a weekender going for a couple days in the middle of the week is great just to get out before things get really serious in April, as well as having sacred relationships to water. All right. Having sacred relationships to water, having sacred relationships to bath, shower, the ocean, and of course, drinking lots of water as we head into eclipse season, letting yourself cry. The thing about Pisces season is that it is about letting go. It's about releasing. We have a very hard time in Western culture with grieving and with releasing. And yet, it is so important to let yourself feel the feelings of grief, the feelings of loss, even if the loss is what you wanted, right? That's the weird trip of being a human. We often are letting things go actively. And yet, in Western culture, we usually don't let ourselves grieve. So instead of stunting that process, Pisces season every year, which is right around late February to late March, every year, Pisces season asks us to let go and feel into the letting go, feel into the depths. And it's a little scary. There's like a scary quality to letting yourself feel it all the way through and then also feel it so deep. And this, speaking from my Pisces pulpit here, feeling it so deeply that you then kind of feel a universal or cosmic pain as well. So it gets very universal, it gets very cosmic if you're letting yourself kind of go into the depths of an emotional experience. It is scary for our egos. This is the last sign of the zodiac. Pisces is the 12th sign. It is the sign that rules becoming an elder and then dying. It literally rules the transition from elder to death. And then Pisces is, rather, Aries is the rebirth, the baby being like, wah. So this is the cusp of death and rebirth. The eclipses happening in Aries season is really dynamic because it's like big faded changes and we're rebirthing. But there's a lot of letting go until we hit April. So we're still all of March. There's a lot of grieving. There's a lot of letting go, even if it's welcome change. It's very relational because Libra's super in the mix, right? And Pisces wants to love everybody, but like we still got to be letting it go, like letting go of it's not a great time to be trying to fix all the things right now, especially relationally. Like it's just not the time because a lot needs to be is still being purged before April. So sleepy, dreamy, sacred relationships to water, but also your body, ritual. Ritual is a big word here. Like, what are your rituals, your daily rituals that actually involve consciousness? So, I'm not talking about like turning the TV on, which is very Pisces. Pisces can escape in the shadow of TV and social media. What is the like conscious decisions you're making to have ritual this week before eclipses? So now you know you're like, oh, big changes are going to happen starting like right around March 20th with the equinox, like really big changes. So how do I like get grounded? What are the things I like to do that are witchy, ritualistic, strange, potentially private with Pisces? Like I said, it's about retreating. It's about doing things that no one else knows about. Not necessarily like bad secrets, but just like your own sacred secrets. Everyone has to have secrets, by the way. Very healthy. So like, can we get into those? Are they done consciously? Are they done with the awareness that whatever you're doing with yourself is also impacting every single other nervous system on this planet? Right. So, an act of self love and an act of self ritual emanating and touching like a mycelial network, just touching all other people. So, we don't often think that like an act of meditation or an act of prayer is positively impacting other people, but it is literally. I know it sounds so strange, but here's Pisces, right? Mercury and Pisces over here talking on the mic. So, yes, like meditating, taking really good care of yourself helps other people heal. This is in sharp contrast to, by the way, to late capitalism. Late capitalism says you have to be like out on the streets screaming and protesting for things to get done. I'm not saying that that's not a way to get things done, but there are many ways to heal the world. Okay. So I'm going to get off the Pisces pulpit here for a moment and talk about Monday. So Monday, we have Venus at the last degree of Aquarius. She's at an anaretic degree. Wow, we are so excited for her to plunge into Pisces, but it's not today. It's not Monday. So Monday might have an edgy feel to it because Venus is finishing up her sojourn in a very analytical, conceptual, group oriented, and technologically driven sign, Aquarius. With Venus leaving Aquarius, there could be this moment on Monday where you're watching a friend dynamic or a group or digital dynamic shift. It's usually not super, super gnarly with Venus. It's like, okay, that chapter's over. We figured that thing out. There's a resolution. But there are also, especially if you have any sensitive points in the other fixed signs, right around the end degrees of Leo, Scorpio, and Taurus, this could be a moment where a friendship is not doing so great. Okay. So there could be some friendship stuff that comes up to the fore on Monday, especially after that new moon in Pisces with the Mars Uranus square signature. Like, yikes. A lot of people texted me and were like, I'm having friend drama or I'm having drama with coworkers. I'm having drama at work. Lots of people texting me. And I was like, oh, yeah. And it happened right on the Mars Uranus square. So Mars in Aquarius. And now we have Venus trying to leave Aquarius. But again, the leaving of Aquarius is like, okay, groups and dynamics are changing, especially because they are squaring Uranus and Taurus. A square to Uranus says change is happening here. Whether you want it or not, they're getting like their feathers ruffled. People are feeling stuff. And like, there's going to be a square is always kind of combat or action taken. So Monday has a slight edge to it with Venus leaving Aquarius. However, not the hardest transit. I want to just say the moon is in Aries right on top of Mercury. And so there is like maybe we're actually communicating. The moon is emotions, Mercury's communication, Aries is the self. So we may be communicating about our needs to our friendships or groups or on social media if you're like an influencer. And it may just be ruffling feathers, or it may just be like, this is the new me, and my friendships and slash coworkers slash all of the groups are shifting with me. There's some pretty empowered energy. There's a sextile from Pluto in Aquarius. So I think it's really like a self-esteem boost for a lot of people on Monday, but there's like an uncomfy quality because Venus is not yet in Pisces. Things are going to get better. Things are going to get better once she enters Pisces. So there could be some like having to have intense conversations with people, particularly because Chiron is in Aries. So, like, oh, we have to have this conversation. We have to resolve this friendship. It's painful, maybe for both of us, but we're speaking our truth non-violently. That's the real big key here to transform toxic masculinity with Chiron and Aries. How can I non-violently and transparently, bravely communicate where I'm coming from, knowing that this friendship might change, this group dynamic is changing, this digital technological storyline is changing. Tuesday, boom, boom, boom. This is my favorite day of the week. Venus enters Pisces. The moon, well, it's not my favorite day of the week, but it is a great day. My favorite day of the week actually is, I think, Wednesday when the moon moves into Taurus. But anyway, regardless, Venus flies into Pisces. She flies up and then dips right into the pool. And she's like, this is the perfect temperature in here. I'm feeling great. Venus loves to be in Pisces. All right. She is exalted in Pisces. She's in her joy. We love Pisces because both of the benefics like to be here. Jupiter and Venus, they're both like, let's get it done. Let's love everybody. Here's the key phrase for me personally for Venus and Pisces: forgiveness. Forgiveness. It's not even a phrase, it's a word. Here you go. Just so easy. Forgiveness. Forgiveness of the self as all these things are dissolving in your life, as all these like new dynamics are coming in and you have to let go of a bunch of stuff. Forgiving yourself, doing some deep work to love on yourself and be like, you did the best you could. And if you need me to say it to you, I'm going to say it right now. You did the best you could in that moment. And guess what? You get a lot more chances to do it better, but forgive yourself. So that's Venus and Pisces energy. She says like forgiveness is radical just for the self first, but then of course, because Pisces is a transpersonal sign, it is forgiveness to your friend groups, your collectives, your tribes, your country, your globe. She wants forgiveness all around. She also says, Venus and Pisces also says, I will deeply reward you threefold for every act of service to other people, for every act of service where you're not looking to gain status. Pisces is not about status. Okay. That's Capricorn. That's Aries. It's a lot of other signs. That is not Pisces. Pisces is at the food bank and nobody knows. They're like, where'd you go? Oh, well, I was just busy. And they were at the food bank for 5 hours feeding, hungry people. I think of rabbis and priests, people who do a lot of service work fall under Pisces, and they're not necessarily expecting to be like a famous rabbi, right? So Venus and Pisces basically says, I will bonify all of your service work. I will make all of the sacrifices that you're doing right now in preparation for eclipse season. And even during eclipse season, all these sacrifices, all of this service oriented work, all of this radical forgiveness, I will pay you threefold for your work here. So lean into it. There is just a really juicy, spiritual, and compassionate energy here that wants to glow you up. If you know where the Pisces part of your chart is, this is really helpful. You know where you can really lean into the service, the sacrifice, but also the like, putting yourself out there in a way that's like, hey, I love this so much and I have so much radical joy and happiness and joie de vivre in this area, people will notice it if it's just like pure, unadulterated joy. Another analogy I always think of with Pisces, related to what I just shared about the old person who's dying to become the baby, that's Aries. If you've ever been around an elderly person who's near the end of their lifetime, they become like a child. They become wide-eyed often. Not all, I mean, obviously, not all people, but some folks, some folks, get dementia. Some folks like don't really know where they are anymore. And yet there's this glow and the eyes can have this openness of like, I'm seeing through realms and I'm, a joker. My grandmother was like dancing in the hospital, you know, she was dancing with a male nurse thinking it was her husband, and she was having the time of her life right before she passed. She was dancing. So there's this way with Venus and Pisces where we have to tap into an eternal an eternal sense of wonder, just deep deep wonder to the world, showing that to other people. That's the transpersonal part. Like sharing that wonder with other people is so beautiful at this time. All of my artists who are listening, people who are artists, this is so wonderful for you to just lean into the love of Venus and Pisces. Even people who work in the health and wellness industry, nurses, people who work with mental health, this is a really juicy moment for you to get more out of the work. And of course, people who work in the spiritual realms as well. I do think that all of the crunchy crap that happened in February with the Aquarius energy, I think that a lot of people are going to turn around and start forgiving their friends, but also asking for forgiveness. You could be like, oh, actually, February will probably get recontextualized in the next month when Venus is in Pisces. People will be like, oh yeah, okay, that was really, really hard. I got into a friend breakup or I got into a friend fight, and now I'm ready. Venus in Pisces is lubricating the forgiveness. She's like, let's do it. Let's have the conversation, but everyone will take on, whether they want to or not with this energy, they will take on a more compassionate tone. Therefore, you can, maybe before the Libra eclipse, but you can take the next week to ask for forgiveness if you need to have that conversation. Or let a person know, like, I love you and I forgive you. Of course, if that's authentic. Don't force yourself if you're not there yet. But it's a great time to lean into where you can throw a little extra compassion onto other people and yourself. So late night Tuesday into Wednesday, I guess, yeah, the moon does move into Taurus late night Tuesday PST. Uh, the Taurus moon will immediately square Pluto. This is going to happen in the like early AM for East Coast people. So maybe not, y'all will likely be sleeping. Who knows? It's the East Coast, maybe not. But for Pacific Standard Time people, it'll be happening late evening on Tuesday. And the Taurus moon squaring Pluto is a kind of a yikes moment. It can bring up power struggles that are kind of new or weird or have to do with resources, finances. There can be a moment of like, I'm giving too much or I'm giving too little, or my groups are demanding a lot from me. It's a pretty quick transit. I just want to flag it that it's something to pay attention to though. For those who are sleeping, great, good on you. This is a great transit to sleep through, if I may say so. But people on the West Coast here in the US, you may experience it late night. So just keep in mind if you're feeling funky, especially if you're a Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius, or Leo, that square to Pluto you're going to feel, and it could make you feel like, ugh, like something is imbalanced with my friend groups, networks, and my finances or my self worth. Big stuff that can come up here. It could potentially ruffle the nervous system because it's a square to Taurus. Taurus is very somatic. However, then once she like moves through, it's like Wednesday that during the day, the moon has moved past Pluto. And I really like this day because the moon is in a great position in Taurus. And then we've got Venus in Pisces. So we've got these two feminine energies that are like really happy to be there until the moon touches Uranus. But for the most part, there's a sweet pocket on like during the day on Wednesday. And it can be great to really figure out or lean in on Wednesday to where you can forgive other people, but also where you can show a little extra love to yourself. Wednesday, even though it's like hump day for a lot of people, my Australians, it's going to be Thursday for you. But, Wednesday midweek, even Thursday, it's a good time to take care and maybe do an extra juicy thing for yourself. like a loving thing with both the moon and Venus in very sexy signs, very sensual and sexy signs. Um, okay. And there can be some conflict on Thursday because the moon's going to square Mars in Aquarius. So it's like a little bit of burp burp, we'll see how that goes. Just keep in mind, Flag Thursday could be a little bit of feathers ruffled. Again, this has a lot to do with the friendships and the networks and the groups that are changing. So be mindful of those storylines. You can accept the process, instead of reacting to the process. Like, oh, this is changing. All right. Wow. I have to like center and ground myself and not overreact in this moment. That's why we listen to the astrology. Friday, the moon in Gemini is going to square all damn Pisces planets. The moon's having she's got a lot of stuff going on this week. I wrote, it's better to do witchcraft than file your taxes. It's a day to lean into music, dance, film, poetry, and letting go of trying to solve anything. Idle hands are the devil's workshop. Ooh, moon and Gemini square all damn Pisces planets. Idle hands are the devil's workshop. You want to keep yourself busy, but busy with like maybe more low stakes things or things that are in process where you're tasting things. So not full blown commitment on Friday. You're not making promises on Friday to anybody. Nobody. Because if you are making promises or someone's making promises to you, they are lying. I don't know what else to say. This energy is like, let's test this out, but we're not really sure. I don't know. Do I know? It's a lot of process. So just flag Friday, even Saturday, especially since the sun's going to conjoin Neptune on Saturday. There's just a lot of being in process, being deeply like situated in your feeling body, your psychic body, your intuition, and your empathy. It's not the time to like land on the Virgo stuff or the Sagittarius stuff. Virgo and Sag are like, where are we at though? And Gemini and Pisces together are like, blah, 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 blah. I don't really know. Like, I don't know. Like, let's meditate or like, let's take some psychedelics. Like, there's not a ton of answers here. And therefore, we want to just go into the weekend being like, blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, I'm going to do some dance. I'm going to like maybe free write or do some poetry. Like, that is lovely with this energy. In fact, Saturday with the Sun Neptune conjunction coming together, this is the day of the year, literally one day of the year that this happens. It's the one day of the year to kind of lose yourself in a flow state of any kind. You want to be intentional about it because the one thing that always scares me about Neptune transits like this is that people get like caught either it's like a bad trip. Like they do some drugs and they're not good and it's a bad trip, or they're literally around energy vampires. So you want to be conscious and ritualistic on Saturday. Like, where do I actually want to be? And how can I take care of myself knowing with a Neptune transit, you will be more sensitive to other people's energy. You will be more susceptible to like conspiracy theories, false prophets. Like, for me, like I'm traveling on this day and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to end up in an Uber with someone who like believes the earth is flat. Like, that is so Sun Neptune. It's just like some guy who's like, the earth's flat. And you're like, I'm stuck in a car with you for 45 minutes. So, setting boundaries is going to be great during this day and then diving in, like creating a container, texting everybody and being like, don't disturb me, do not disturb for 4 hours, and then like diving into an occult subject like astrology or anything that's kind of high vibration where you're like, oh, I'm expanding through this experience. Again, if you're really like, if you like psychedelics, is great for that. If you are like, no, that's not for me, then a long walk in nature or going to the beach or like spending some time with a lover. These are not things where you're trying to figure out logically what's going on. You're having a somatic and heightened like sensual experience and psychic experience. I wanted to give us a grounding tool to understand Sun Neptune conjunctions. And so, of course, I pulled up a famous person who has Sun Neptune. I really like it. I really like this person that I found. So, Frida Kahlo. Frida Kahlo has Neptune Sun conjoined to the degree in Cancer. This is a fellow water sign. So this is lovely because this is happening in Pisces, and Pisces and Cancer, not so different, if I may say so myself, as someone who is a Pisces and a Cancer. There's a lot of similarity here. So we want to just look at Frida Kahlo. It's really interesting because the sun in a person's chart is their career. and their higher vocation and like the legacy they're leaving in this world. Neptune is hallucinogens, psychedelia, surrealism, things that are not as they appear, highly spiritually infused work, the arts, painting. And literally, she's a surrealist painter. I mean, it's very, very literal. She has Neptune Sun. Her whole career was about creating these surrealist paintings, these paintings that had to do with her body a lot of the time, and but in ways that were sort of like unnerving. Like if you've ever looked at some of her self-portraits, there's this sort of in between worlds quality to her painting. And for her, just, I have to put it out here, she had such a complicated relationship to femininity and womanhood based on early childhood experiences, but also her really intense relationship to Diego Rivera. And that's often Cancer Capricorn stuff. So that's a little outside of the purview of this week. But without me getting too geeky and going down a wormhole, channel Frida Kahlo this week. She obviously was a painter. She was a very emotional person. She was like completely herself, feeling her feelings in her body, painting her feelings for the world to see, and visioning and dreaming through her paintings. I wanted to share a quote that she said that I think perfectly encapsulates the archetype of Sun Neptune conjunction. Okay. It's beautiful. Here we go. She goes, I used to think I was the strangest person in the world, but then I thought there are so many people in the world. There must be someone just like me who feels bizarre and flawed in the same ways that I do. I would imagine her and imagine that she must be out there thinking of me too. Well, I hope that if you are out there and read this and know that, yes, it's true, I'm here and I'm just as strange as you. So that is Frida Kahlo speaking beautifully to the cosmic and universal nature of Neptune. Neptune being like, we're all in this together and it's pretty surreal. It's pretty strange. And she's speaking to this strangeness. She identified with the strangeness because Neptune was literally engulfing her sun. So she was like, oh, I'm so strange. And yet she was able to get transpersonal with it. Neptune's a transpersonal planet. She was able to get cosmic with it and tie herself to another person. Whether or not that person existed doesn't really matter. She still tied herself to the world through that. It's very beautiful. That's part of the forgiveness work that's coming up as well. All right. So that's all tied in with like, if I forgive this person, I'm actually forgiving an aspect of myself. If I acknowledge that this person's flawed, I'm also acknowledging and holding space for the fact that I'm flawed. So that is deeply on the docket this week. The final thing I want to say that's a little bit less like profound and more mundane is that we want to be very careful with the news that we are imbibing and the social media that we are imbibing with this sensitive Neptunian week. Okay. When Neptune is high in the sky, with Uranus also playing some games, you want to be really careful about taking in whatever media you're taking in because it can really permeate the aura. It can permeate through the being and you can take on stuff. That's where like conspiracy theories come out of. People get really down a wormhole with Neptune. So you want to pull out of the rabbit hole, pull out of the wormhole, and just be like, I'm going to do something that makes me feel in a flow state instead of in a freaked out paranoia state. That's the shadow of Neptune is paranoia. So we're leaning towards creativity and flow state, and we're gonna just create some boundaries to not have paranoia or energy vampires. All right, that is this week in a nutshell. Thank you so much for listening to the World of Rex. I love each and every one of you. I truly do. Speaking with a lot of Pisces in my chart, powerful Pisces energy. If you want to work with me one on one to do some deep healing, I am here for you. The link is in the show notes. And we are heading into eclipse season. So this is the perfect time to get a reading right before eclipses to get really prepared for how incredibly dynamic the next month is. All right. Okay. I love each and every one of you, and I will talk to you next week on the World of Rex.